Hi, welcome back to the So Now What podcast. This is episode 2, and my name is Carrie. I'll be hosting the podcast today. I want you to meet a very special little buddy of mine. This is Millie, and she is a miniature schnauzer. She's 7 years old. Hi, sweet pea. And she is just my little dream. She's always in my studio with me. She goes with me all over the place. And she's really a super little dog. So every once in a while I might show her. This is pretty much how she is all the time. She's very chill and a cuddler and just likes to hang out with me. So I thought I'd give her some screen time, let her say hi until she's very thrilled, very thrilled. What do you think about that, pumpkin? You ready to be done with it? So Millie's off into sitting in her little chair that she has here in my studio. But I want to welcome you back, and I want to say a huge thank you for all the nice comments and for the people that have subscribed and just taken the time to watch. I know that people's lives are busy, and I think that it's it pleases me greatly to think that you took a moment of your life to come and sit with me for a little bit. So I want to get started. First of all, you can find me on Instagram at Carrie_S, and Carrie has one R. Or you can find me on Ravelry as Carrie S, and I started a Ravelry group for the So Now What podcast, so you can look there. I'm not really sure what we're going to do with that, but if you have any questions or suggestions or something you want to talk about, you can find me on there and post it there, and maybe we can connect that way. I want to apologize. I've had a cold, which has turned into this sort of weird respiratory thing. So I may sound like I'm out of breath, and I may clear my throat every once in a while, but it's just this respiratory thing that I have. It's getting better, but it's still kind of hanging on, and it was a gift my husband gave to me, which was so lovely of him. Let's get started with what's on the wall. What's on the wall is my son's quilt that I finished. I talked about it last week in the podcast. I was getting ready to do the machine quilting on it on my long arm, and I finished it. And isn't that cool? I mean, it's just a neat optical illusion kind of a quilt made with just 4 different shades of fabric. I have a white and a black, and then a medium and a light gray. It's just a matter of how those all play out. And I love it, and they love it. They came over last night for dinner, and I showed it to them. I'm in the process of sewing the binding on, so I'm almost finished with that. I have just one side and a little bit on another side, and then they'll get it probably in the next day or two. But I had to show them. The pattern is called Labyrinth Walk, and it's a pattern by the Guilty Quilter. I'm sure you can find it in quilt shops. I'm sure if you looked online, you can find it. It's an easy pattern to do. You do have to pay attention because you've got to make sure your optical illusion is working in the right way. So make sure your angles are turning out the right way. But really, it wasn't that hard. Once I got everything cut out and I got to the point where I was putting things together, I put in an audiobook and listened to that while I pieced it. And it didn't take me too long. And I stuck with it. I tend to stick with quilt projects longer when they're for somebody. If it's just for me, there's not a deadline, I guess. Not that this had a deadline, but it was for somebody. I was excited to give it to somebody. I picked it out specifically for them. And so I was a little more inspired to keep working on it. So anyway, I've got a short video clip that I shot that I'll show at the end of this podcast. So if you're not into machine quilting, you don't have to stick around and watch that, but it'll be at the end. And it's a little 3-minute video clip of real general of how the long arm works and how it works to get something like that quilted. I quilted it in a pattern called Square Spiral, and it's called you use a pantograph, so I'm following somebody else's design. I just needed to give it texture because the piecing and the colors are really what stand out for this. So anyway, it's a brief little shot of kind of how that all goes together. So anyway, you can stick around at the end for that. It's like I said, it's short. I'm a little wheezy in it because of this whole respiratory thing, so I'm sorry about that, but it's getting better. So my next quilt project that I'm wanting to work on, and I'm excited to get started on it, is a quilt that I want to make for a good friend of mine. She had sent me a picture, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago, and she said, oh, is this like hard to make? And I thought, well, is that a hint that she wants me to make it, or is she going to start making quilts? So it turns out she was just sort of dropping a hint, and I love making quilts for people. I love the process of it, of picking out the right fabrics that are that person, and then just, it's a really special gift. So anyway, I got the fabrics, and this is them. Isn't that pretty? It's all different shades of blue, goes into kind of an aqua color to greens, even like the citron green. And this is Blueberry Park by Karen Lewis. And it is put out by Robert Kaufman. So these are gonna, I only need about half of these, which is kind of cool because then I can use the other half for me. So I'm gonna kind of pick and choose to get a variation of all these colors. And it'll have, it'll go against white on a white background. So the pattern I'm gonna do was, the picture that she sent to me was this pattern. And the pattern is called Patio by Happy Zombie Patterns. So in this picture, it doesn't look like it's gonna look when I make it out of these fabrics, because this looks like a little girl's quilt. But it's real simple. It's just rectangles and some squares with the white background, and it's going to be really striking in those colors. So I'm excited to get that started. I need to get the white background because I don't quite have enough just in my cupboard, and with whites, as within a lot of different colors, but you can get, if I started using the white that I had and then just bought a little bit more, it could be a little bit off. Could be a little bluer, could be a little yellower, and I don't want that to show up in the quilt. So I'll get all of the white I need so that it's all out of the same dye lot, basically, even though it's just white. So that's going to be my next project. It should be pretty simple, and then I'll get that quilted up and maybe take you through the process of that. I don't know. It's going to be simple. So anyway, so that's my next quilt project, and so now I'll move into what I'm doing knitwise. Before I get into what I'm doing knitwise, I want to give a shout out to some of the podcasts that I've really been enjoying. In working on this, on the binding on this quilt, that's my least favorite part of making a quilt. I don't like doing it. I can't do it for very long because my hands get really sore and tired. But I sat and I put on some knitting podcasts, and I just sat and worked on it for as long as I can. And the ones that I'm really loving right now is Grocery Girls. Those girls, they just make me laugh. And they're sisters, and I love their camaraderie together. I love the fact that they both like knitting and their excitement for it, and they're just fun to watch or fun to listen to, and they just are really sweet. So I definitely like them. Another one is Legacy Knits with Chelsea and Sue. They're a mother-daughter team that just cracked me up. Yesterday's episode, at the beginning, they were making fun of Chelsea's brother, and they got me giggling so hard. I had tears coming out of my eyes. And in their podcast, they said, oh, we're going to edit this out. And I'm really glad they didn't, because it just cracked me up. So they're really fun to watch. I love to see their interaction with each other. It's just precious and sweet. So those two are like on the top of my list. Got to make sure I watch those. Another one is Katie, and she is the Inside 23 podcast. And she's just a delight. I would love to go hang out with her. She's so adorable, and she just knits up some really neat things, and she's such a creative person. She sews her own clothes, which I envy, and she's just cute as a bug. And so she's got a really fun podcast out. So check out her as well. Another one I just started watching and I'm liking quite well is Sticks Plus Twigs. And Eric is hosting that one. And I like getting the male's perspective on knitting, because I have only men in my life. I have a son and his partner and my husband, and it's all boys. And so it's kind of neat to maybe get some ideas of things to knit for them. I don't know that they really want anything. My husband has already told me he has enough hats. He doesn't wear scarves. You know, I guess the only other alternative at this point for me is to just knit him some socks. But I do like having his perspective. And he's fun one to watch as well. One more that I want to mention is called Not a Podcast, and it's Amanda. And I just found her, so I've only watched a couple of episodes. And she's got a really sweet cadence to her voice, and I like listening to her. She dyes and spins yarns, and it's an interesting one. So definitely go check her out as well. Last episode, I talked about my ball winding experience that was coming up. I had a hank of yarn from Blue Moon Fiber Arts, and it was a 10-ounce skein, and my ball winder I felt was too small for it. So I did video how I did it, but it's actually pretty boring, so I'll just talk about it. The ball winder I thought it was a 3-ounce ball winder. It's this one here. It's a 4-ounce ball winder, and so the skein that I needed to wind up was 6 ounces. So I was really like 2 ounces over what the ball winder supposedly could handle. So I thought I'd get tricky and try and outsmart it. It kind of worked a little bit. I don't know it wasn't a mess, but it's not a permanent fix. So I have my ball winder. What I did is I made a disc out of like real thin cardboard, probably about the thickness of like a box from cereal or something like that. And I cut the disc to fit over the base to give this a wider spot for the yarn to wind up on. I paid attention that it was going to clear right here, and I thought, okay, that's all good and well. But as I wound it, and it would come around here, the yarn is coming through the guide and it actually hit the edge of this. So I thought, oh, that's not going to work. But it didn't seem to be throwing anything off too much. And I just cruised around and wound and wound and wound and wound. And about the time when I had probably about 4 ounces on it, it wasn't working anymore, because what was happening is as it was getting fuller, it was trying to wind underneath this. And so it was including all of this in the ball. So I unwound that much and kind of guided it with my hand. And then it was wanting to go over the top because it just didn't have enough room. The guide would probably need to be taller or whatever. So I limped through till the end, got it all wound, but not a permanent solution to needing a bigger winder. So I'm going to trim this down, because what I did find, I'll trim this down to the edge of the base, because what I liked was that I could lift my cake of yarn real easily because I could get underneath it. So I'm going to keep the disc on it, trim it down like I said so it doesn't catch the yarn as it's winding, but then it gives me something to just lift it up. So I did learn something from it. It wasn't a total loss, like I said, but it was really, really slow once I got past that, the capacity of the winder. So Kathy had made a comment saying, oh, you need a 10-ounce winder. I need a 10-ounce winder. I can't fudge it. But I will wait till my birthday probably, which is in June. So I have a little ways before I can actually get that to maybe be gifted to me by my husband. So anyway, and thanks Kathy for that suggestion. And yeah, you're right. But I tried. So I want to show now my works in progress, my whips. I had shown last week my little sock bag and the socks that I was making. So I had one sock finished, and I've got quite a ways on this one. So I just turned the heel, and I'm now working on the foot. This one, where the instep is, actually had the colors blend a little easier, a little more gently, I guess, than the first one. The first one's got a pretty abrupt color change, if you can see that. It went from the yellowish green right into the pink. So it's got this definite line. This one here, it was a little more gradual. I mean, it looks a little more stark on the camera, but it is a little more gradual. It'll be okay. They're not going to be too far off in color. I was concerned that I don't necessarily need them to match, and I don't really care that my socks match. But if they're at least look like they're from the same pair, it would be nice. And I think it's going to give that. They'll be a little bit off, but I think they'll be close enough. I hate this yarn. The more that I work with it, the more I hate it. And I'm realizing that I need something with more of a twist. So let me show you again. It was Poem Yarns, or Wisdom Yarns Poem Socks. I don't like it. I'm even concerned that these socks are going to end up being too big and I won't even be able to wear them. So, yeah, that's kind of sucks. But, you know, live and learn. So, the skein of yarn that I was winding was my skein that I got from Blue Moon Fiber Arts and the colorway was Whirly Whirlaroo. And I started knitting it. I had to get it wound because I just definitely needed to get it knitted. So here's the yarn. And it was funny because when it was in the hank and just kind of twisted up, you really could see the colors. And I thought, oh, it's just gorgeous. But when I caked it up, it kind of muddied the colors when they're on top of each other. And I thought, if I had seen this in the store, I probably wouldn't have bought it because it looks dulled out. But it's a beautiful yarn. I love working with it. It's knitting up really nicely. So I started a shawl, and I don't know if you can see very well. It's got some shaping. I boo-booed right here, that whole row or 2 rows. I'm not really sure. I don't know if you can see. Get a little closer. Anyway, the holes are over one, but I'm not taking it out because I'm just not going to. I was having some difficulty. Oh, sure. I should tell you what the pattern is. The pattern is called the Milkweed Shawl. I found it on Ravelry. It's a paid pattern by Chau. And it's an easy pattern, actually. But it's the first time I've done any kind of pattern work. And what's really nice is she has the pattern written up in a graph or a chart, or it's got written instructions. So I'm using the written instructions because I'm finding that I think that's helping me. Although I've had to take out almost every other row. I'd knit a row, and you get to the end, you're like, yeah, okay, I had the right amount of stitches because I ended with the stitch I needed to end with, and then you just do a knit row. So your shaping rows are only every other row. Go to shape, do the next shaping row, and I'm off. And I'm like, where the heck is that coming from? Rip it back out. So I don't know what my problem is. Maybe it is that I'm trying to follow the written directions as opposed to a chart, and maybe I should try the chart. But it's not by fault of the pattern. The pattern is well written. It's me. I know it's totally me. One thing I wish that she would have done in the patterning is after you get done with your shaping row is to say how many stitches you should have, because you've yarned over and you know, knitted 2 together and whatever, and it's like, how many am I even supposed to have at this point? So what I'm doing is I'm going to the chart, counting how many stitches to see how many off, you know, how far off I am. But I'm liking the colors now that they're knitting up, and I think it's going to be a really nice shawl. I think it'll be pretty. Something for fall. So, you know, here I'm knitting this thinking, okay, this is going pretty good. And it is. That's, you know, just a few days worth of knitting. So it is going pretty well. I'm knitting them on size 4. And it's sock yarn. So, so it's going pretty fast. But I was getting all, like, excited because there's a new shawl that's going to be issued out tomorrow that I think is so beautiful, and I want to knit it, but it looks like it might be complicated. So I thought, if I can't even do this simple one, how am I going to do the complicated one? So I'm going to keep pursuing, you know, getting through this, and I think I don't know. I think I'll find a rhythm. I think I'll kind of get my groove on about it. And I'm hoping because I really do want to make the shawl that Wool & Vine Yarns is putting out, and it's going to be issued March 1st. Oh, happy Leap Day today, you guys. It's Leap Day, woo! But tomorrow's March 1st, and that's the I don't know, the reveal of the pattern, or when she issues the pattern. And the pattern is called, I'm looking at my notes. The pattern is called Meer. Meer. I don't know what that means, but that's what she's calling the pattern. And it's a beautiful shawl. I'm going to wait till it's put out tomorrow. I'm going to get it and look at it. And if If it looks too complicated, I'll hold off on it and wait till I work some other more intricate shawls to see how that goes. I don't know, fingers crossed. Because I bought some new yarn. I went into Portland on Saturday because I wanted to go to Twisted. Twisted is a yarn shop that's in Northeast Portland. I didn't want to go during the week because traffic in Portland during the week is horrible. It's just horrible. But if you go on a weekend, it's not bad. So I took the time and went out to Twisted. I got to show you what I got. So with the idea that I'm going to try this Meer shawl, I bought... Sorry about that. I bought this beautiful, not quite purple. My husband said, oh, purple, what a shock. It's not really purple. It's purplish blue and green. It's a Malabrigo sock yarn. And the color is number 416 Indicida. Anyway, the way the pattern looks, it's got like this border that kind of looks like waves, and I thought, oh, this would be beautiful in that. And this is a color I think I would wear a lot because I'm not a dress up kind of person. I don't wear heels. I'm a jeans and t-shirts person. I rarely dress up. And I thought, you know, this would be real pretty to go with jeans. It just would kind of dress up the jeans outfit. So it's a beautiful yarn. It feels nice and soft. I've never tried this kind of yarn before. So that's why I'm hoping that this pattern's not going to be too far over my head because I think this is the perfect yarn for it. And if it's too far over my head, I may have to just keep this for later when I do decide to do it. So that was one of my purchases. And my next purchase to make a pair of socks. And I'm going to try some socks that have a pattern to them. I've always just made vanilla socks. And I've always used a sock yarn that self-stripes or, you know, has a color change or something. I haven't made anything that's somewhat solid. So I bought this beautiful, it's kind of a pinkish purple. It's not purple. It's kind of a pinkish purple, but it's more of a variegated tonal. And it's a Madeline Tosh Twist Light Lolita. This is Lolita. How cute is that? But anyway, these would be adorbs. And I'm going to make a pattern called Monkey Socks. And I found the pattern on Knitty.com. And it's a pattern put out by, let me look, Cookie A. It was a free pattern on Knitty.com. And it's got some texture. I'm hoping it's not going to be too difficult. Because at the same time of trying to do a new pattern, I'm going to try and do my socks on a circular needle. So I bought myself some Addy Turbo sock rockets, and I bought them in a size 1, be 2.5 millimeter. So I'm going to try a pattern sock, which is new, on a circular needle doing a magic loop. I know how to do magic loop. That's how I do my hats, and so I figure if it's just a smaller loop, I should be able to figure it out. So when I get stuck on stuff like that, or I'm not really sure how to do something, I always go right to the internet and I look up Very Pink Knits. Stacy on Very Pink Knits has the best tutorials for anything knitty. It's just, I love the way she explains things. I love how she shows you how to do things, and it's taught me a lot. Like when I first wanted to try and do magic loop with the hat, I went to Very Pink Knits, looked that up. Oh, it's easy peasy. And now that's how I do my hats, which is really easy. So she's a great one to go look. If you guys don't know, I'm sure everybody knows who she is. She's been around a long time, and she's a very good knitter. She's a very good knitter and makes patterns, and I just love her stuff. So I went on there to see how to do socks in the magic loop method, and it looked totally doable. The one thing, maybe I can ask you guys, and you can help me with this. Every single time I make a sock, and it doesn't matter what yarn I use, and it's something I'm doing wrong or just not doing right. I don't know if you can see. See how I get this kind of space? That's where I move from when I'm doing double pointed needles, it's where I move from one needle to the next. And so I get it no matter where. Let's see if you can see that. Right here. I don't know if you can see it. But I've tried, I think, oh, maybe I need to tighten right there when I do that. And it's like, nope, that didn't help. Maybe I need to loosen when I switch from one needle to the next. That doesn't seem to be helping. I don't want that to show, and it doesn't go away. Whatever I'm doing, it's in the sock, even after I've washed them and stuff. So if somebody has a tip on what I'm doing wrong, I can't find anything on the internet. Please leave a comment below, or go to the Ravelry group, So Now What Podcast, and leave a comment there, because with this sock that I'm going to make here, even though it's patterned, the pattern's only on the front. I don't want that line on the sides. I'll have one less line because I'm doing it in a magic loop instead of 3 needles, but I don't want it there at all. So anyway, if you've got a tip for me, please let me know, because I'm really stumped on that one. One of the things that I talked to somebody about when I was in Twisted is the Rose City Yarn Crawl that's happening March 4th through the 7th. It's like a Thursday to Sunday. And it's 14 yarn shops that are part of this yarn crawl. You get a passport, and you go into the different shops and you get your passport stamped. If you hit all 14 shops, then your name goes into a drawing for a pretty big basket of yarny knitty goodness. And I'm really excited. I want to do it. I don't know if I can make all 14 shops, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try. So I have to kind of map out to make the best of my time, because you've got some that are right in Portland and then it kind of spreads out. The hard part's going to be that anything that's kind of in the downtown area or close to it, parking's horrible. And to go during the week, like Thursday, Friday, traffic is awful. So I'm going to try and hit the ones that are a little more on the outskirts. And then Jim even offered to be my driver. I mean, how awesome is that? He said, I'll just drive you. I know where, he knows Portland really well because he drives through it every day, or drives around in it every day for work. And he goes, I'll just drop you off. You go in, I'll circle around a little bit, and then I'll swing by and I'll just pick you up. And then we'll go to the next one. And I thought, how many husbands would be willing to do that? And I might actually take him up on it, because I would really, really like to try and hit all 14 shops. So I'm hoping that I can maybe take a little video with my phone and kind of show a little bit about it. I'll at least be talking about it next time I come on with a podcast. And then I thought, what am I going to go in and buy? You don't have to buy anything, but if you're going to go and participate, you got to buy something. So what I think I'm going to do is collect a mini skein, if they have them. Collect a mini skein from each shop, and do it like in some sock yarn, so that I can do different color heels and toes and things like that. But I thought that would be kind of a fun project to have, even if I did it like knitted them all into a scarf or something. I don't know how much I would end up with, but if I made something out of all those little skeins, it'd be kind of like my little souvenir from the trip. So that's coming up. I'm going to start doing that on Thursday. And what's fun is, by doing that, it's opened my eyes up to yarn shops that I didn't know were out there, because I don't go into Portland that often. And I certainly don't go on things that are like on the other side of Portland, because it's just so far. It takes me a half hour to get to Portland, and then you deal with traffic and you deal with going beyond that, and it's like, okay, an hour to get there and then an hour back. It's just a long time just to go pick up yarn. So I'm going to try it. I will let you know how it goes, and I'll hopefully show you some fun little finds that I have, and I don't know, we'll find something. It's worth a try. I think that's about all I have knit-wise, because I've been doing the quilting thing as well. So if you've made it this far to the end, thank you so much. Please subscribe if you find this interesting. Give me a thumbs up. It means a lot to me, and I hope to keep it interesting and keep you coming back, because this has been really fun for me. So if you're done at this point, this is it. I'm going to now show you the clip that I did of the machine quilting of the quilt behind me, the Labyrinth Walk. I quilted it using a pantograph, which means I followed somebody else's design, but you'll see all that when you watch it. And like I said, please excuse the breathiness because I'm recovering from the crud. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. I wanted to show a behind the scenes of working with the long arm. I got the thought that for those of you that don't quilt or are new quilters or haven't used a long arm before or a long armor before may not know the ins and outs of it. So I just thought I'd show just a brief shot of what's going on. I'm quilting my son's quilt, excuse me. And so it's loaded on the machine. I'm a little more than halfway done. So I thought before I finish, I'd show you what happened. So the machine is on a carriage and it moves around, and you turn it on and you basically draw with the machine. I'm doing a pantograph on this, which means I'm following a design and I work from the back of the machine. So there's this pattern that I'm using. This pattern is called Square Spiral by Kathy James. And can you see this red dot? What I'm doing is I'll turn the machine on and I'll just keep the dot on the line and push the machine while it's stitching on the quilt. See, it's doing its thing over there. And I'm following the design. I stay on the line a little more than that. Try to look through the camera. And so I'll connect the camera to the machine and I'll show you what it looks like from the front. Or maybe I'll just put it on a tripod because it'll vibrate a lot. And kind of show you a little bit about how that stitches out. So it's stitching, and it's doing the stitching out there. Look at this cool back. It's black and gray flames and it's flannel, and it's going to be so warm. So there you have it. That's how long arm quilting is done when you're working from the back of the machine doing a pantograph. And I just keep going row by row until the quilt gets to the bottom and it's all finished.